Question 1. Who is primarily responsible for managing the product backlog? A. The Scrum Master. B. The developers. C. The product owner. D. The stakeholders. Answer: C. The product owner. The product owner is solely accountable for managing the product backlog, which includes clearly expressing product backlog items, ordering them to best achieve goals and missions, and ensuring the product backlog is transparent, visible, and understood by everyone. While developers often help with refinement, and the Scrum Master can coach, the ultimate accountability for what is in the product backlog and its ordering rests with the product owner. Think of the product owner as the voice of the customer and business, prioritizing what will deliver the most value. Always remember that the product owner is the single point of accountability for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team. Question 2. What is the main purpose of the sprint review? A. To inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog if needed. B. To inspect how the last sprint went regarding individuals, interactions, processes, and tools. C. To create a plan for the next sprint. D. To synchronize the developer's activities and create a plan for the next 24 hours. Answer: A. To inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog if needed. The sprint review is a working session where the Scrum team and stakeholders collaborate on what was done in the sprint and what has changed in their environment, then discuss what to do next. Its core purpose is to inspect the increment produced during the sprint and adapt the product backlog based on feedback and new insights. This event helps ensure the product stays on the right track and maximizes value, acting as a crucial inspection point for the product itself. Always remember the sprint review is about the product, while the sprint retrospective is about the process. Question 3. What does "done" mean in Scrum? A. The work is completed by the developers. B. The increment is ready for release to end users. C. All tests have passed, and the code is merged. D. The product owner has approved the work. Answer: B. The increment is ready for release to end users. The definition of done is a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measures required for the product. It ensures transparency by providing a shared understanding of what work was completed as part of the increment and ensures the increment is of usable quality, meaning it is potentially releasable to end users. Without a clear definition of done, the quality and readiness of the increment would be ambiguous, leading to potential rework or misunderstandings. Think of "done" as a commitment to quality and usability, ensuring that every increment adds valuable, high-quality functionality to the product. Question 4. Which Scrum value is exemplified by developers committing to achieving the sprint goal? A. Openness. B. Respect. C. Focus. D. Commitment. Answer: D. Commitment. Commitment is a core Scrum value where people personally commit to achieving the goals of the Scrum team. When developers commit to achieving the sprint goal, they are showing dedication and taking responsibility for the work they have planned to do within the sprint. This commitment fosters accountability and teamwork, driving the team towards shared success. Remembering that each Scrum value reinforces the others will help you understand how they collectively support empiricism and a healthy Scrum team environment. Question 5. The optimal size for a Scrum team, excluding product owner and Scrum Master, is typically A. 3 to 5 members. B. 5 to 9 members. C. 7 to 11 members. D. Varies, but typically 10 or fewer people. Answer: D. Varies, but typically 10 or fewer people. The Scrum Guide states that the optimal size for a Scrum team is typically 10 or fewer people, including the product owner, Scrum Master, and developers. This small size allows for better communication, increased flexibility, and quicker decision-making, while also keeping complexity at a manageable level. Larger teams tend to generate too much complexity for an empirical process to manage effectively, whereas very small teams might lack sufficient skills or throughput. The key is to be small enough to remain nimble and cohesive, yet large enough to complete significant work within a sprint. Question 6. Who is responsible for promoting and supporting Scrum by helping everyone understand Scrum theory, practices, rules, and values? A. The product owner. B. The developers. C. The project manager. D. The Scrum Master. Answer: D. The Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is accountable for establishing Scrum as defined in the Scrum Guide. They do this by helping everyone understand Scrum theory, practices, rules, and values, and by coaching the Scrum team and the organization in its adoption. This role is a true servant leader, ensuring that Scrum is enacted and understood, thereby maximizing the team's ability to deliver value. Think of the Scrum Master as the guardian of the Scrum framework, constantly guiding and improving how Scrum is applied. Question 7. What is the time box for a daily Scrum? A. 15 minutes for a 1-month sprint. B. 15 minutes, regardless of sprint length. C. 30 minutes, regardless of sprint length. D. As long as the developers need to synchronize. Answer: B. 15 minutes, regardless of sprint length. The daily Scrum is a 15-minute event for the developers to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary. This strict time box helps keep the meeting focused and concise, encouraging quick synchronization and adjustment of plans for the next 24 hours. The fixed duration ensures efficiency and prevents the meeting from becoming a detailed problem-solving session, which should occur outside of the daily Scrum with the relevant individuals. Remember that time boxes are essential in Scrum to ensure events are productive and to minimize waste. Question 8. When does a new sprint begin? A. Immediately following the sprint retrospective. B. Immediately following the sprint review. C. When the product owner declares the product backlog ready. D. When the Scrum Master decides the team is ready. Answer: A. Immediately following the sprint retrospective. A new sprint starts immediately after the conclusion of the previous sprint retrospective. Sprints are contiguous, meaning there are no gaps between them, forming a continuous flow of development. This continuous cycle ensures a consistent rhythm for the team and continuous opportunities for inspection and adaptation. Think of sprints as a series of interconnected loops, where the end of one seamlessly transitions into the beginning of the next, maintaining momentum and an uninterrupted workflow. Question 9. What are the 3 pillars of empiricism upon which Scrum is founded? A. Transparency, inspection, and adaptation. B. Planning, execution, and control. C. Respect, courage, and focus. D. People, process, and product. Answer: A. Transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Scrum is founded on empiricism, which asserts that knowledge comes from experience and making decisions based on what is observed. The 3 pillars supporting empiricism are transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Transparency ensures that all aspects of the process are visible to those responsible for the outcome. Inspection involves regularly checking progress toward a sprint goal to detect undesirable variances, and adaptation means adjusting the process or the product as soon as possible to minimize further deviation. These pillars work together to enable the Scrum team to manage complexity and unpredictability effectively. Question 10. Who creates the increment? A. The product owner. B. The Scrum Master. C. The developers. D. The entire Scrum team collaboratively. Answer: C. The developers. The developers are the people in the Scrum team who are committed to creating any aspect of a usable increment each sprint. They are the ones who do the actual work of designing, building, testing, and implementing the product backlog items to create a done increment. While the entire Scrum team collaborates, it is specifically the developers who execute the tasks necessary to build the product. Remember, the developers are responsible for the quality, quantity, and applicability of the increment. Question 11. Which artifact shows the work selected for the sprint and the plan for delivering the increment? A. Product Backlog. B. Sprint Backlog. C. Increment. D. Product Goal. Answer: B. Sprint Backlog. The sprint backlog is composed of the sprint goal, the set of product backlog items selected for the sprint, and the actionable plan for delivering the increment. It is a real-time, highly visible artifact that the developers use to manage their work during the sprint. Think of the sprint backlog as the developer's specific plan for how they will achieve the sprint goal and produce a done increment. It's their detailed roadmap for the current sprint. Question 12. What is the primary purpose of sprint planning? A. To refine the product backlog for future sprints. B. To inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog. C. To create a plan for the sprint. D. To discuss how to improve the Scrum team's effectiveness. Answer: C. To create a plan for the sprint. Sprint planning initiates the sprint by laying out the work to be performed for the sprint. During this event, the Scrum team collaboratively defines the sprint goal, selects product backlog items that will help achieve it, and plans how to transform those items into a done increment within the sprint. This creates the sprint backlog, which acts as the developer's plan for the sprint. The entire Scrum team ensures a clear understanding of the work ahead, setting the direction for the upcoming sprint. Question 13. A Scrum Master is acting as a servant leader by A. Directing the developers on what tasks to work on. B. Protecting the team from outside interruptions and removing impediments. C. Prioritizing the product backlog items for the product owner. D. Reporting the team's progress to management. Answer: B. Protecting the team from outside interruptions and removing impediments. A Scrum Master demonstrates servant leadership by focusing on the needs of the Scrum team members and the wider organization, rather than controlling them. Protecting the team from external distractions and proactively removing impediments helps the developers stay focused on the sprint goal and work efficiently. This enables the team to be self-managing and deliver value without unnecessary hurdles. A key aspect of servant leadership is empowering the team, fostering an environment where they can thrive and solve problems independently. Question 14. What happens if the developers determine they cannot complete the selected product backlog items by the end of the sprint? A. The sprint goal must be changed immediately. B. They should inform the Scrum Master and product owner and collaboratively renegotiate the scope of the sprint backlog within the sprint goal. C. The Scrum Master should reassign tasks to other developers. D. They must work overtime to ensure all items are completed. Answer: B. They should inform the Scrum Master and product owner and collaboratively renegotiate the scope of the sprint backlog within the sprint goal. If the developers realize they cannot achieve the sprint goal, they should immediately communicate this to the product owner and Scrum Master. Together, they can collaborate and renegotiate the scope of the sprint backlog with the product owner, ensuring the sprint goal remains intact if possible, or adjusting it if necessary. This collaborative approach embraces transparency and allows the team to adapt to new information, rather than forcing an impossible commitment or unilaterally changing the plan. The sprint goal acts as a guiding principle, and flexibility around the scope helps the team stay nimble. Question 15. The product backlog is ordered by A. Size of the items. B. Technical complexity. C. Value, risk, priority, and necessity. D. The product owner's preference alone. Answer: C. Value, risk, priority, and necessity. The product backlog is a dynamic, ordered list of everything that is known to be needed in the product. It is ordered by the product owner based on various factors, including value, risk, priority, and necessity, to maximize the value of the product. This ordering is not static but continuously refined as new information emerges, ensuring that the most impactful work is always at the top. The product owner strives to optimize the flow of value by considering all these aspects when ordering the product backlog. Question 16. What is the primary responsibility of the developers during the daily Scrum? A. To report progress to the Scrum Master. B. To update the sprint backlog with newly identified work. C. To create a plan for the next 24 hours to achieve the sprint goal. D. To resolve impediments with the help of the Scrum Master. Answer: C. To create a plan for the next 24 hours to achieve the sprint goal. The daily Scrum is a meeting for the developers to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary, creating an actionable plan for the next 24 hours. It's their meeting to coordinate activities and adjust their approach to best achieve the sprint goal. While updating the sprint backlog and discussing impediments might happen, the core purpose is for the developers to synchronize and plan their immediate work towards the sprint goal. Remember, it's about making a plan, not just reporting status. Question 17. Which statement best describes the role of the product owner? A. They represent the stakeholders' interests to the developers. B. They manage the project budget and timeline. C. They assign tasks to the developers based on priority. D. They are solely responsible for ensuring the definition of done is met. Answer: A. They represent the stakeholders' interests to the developers. The product owner is accountable for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team. To do this, they act as the primary liaison between the stakeholders, customers, business, users, and the Scrum team, representing their interests and ensuring their voices are heard in the product backlog. This role translates stakeholder needs into clear product backlog items and prioritizes them for the developers. The product owner ensures that the right product is being built, aligning development efforts with business objectives. Question 18. What is the purpose of the sprint retrospective? A. To present the increment to stakeholders and gather feedback. B. To inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog. C. To inspect how the last sprint went regarding individuals, interactions, processes, and tools, and to plan improvements. D. To plan the work for the next sprint. Answer: C. To inspect how the last sprint went regarding individuals, interactions, processes, and tools, and to plan improvements. The sprint retrospective is an opportunity for the Scrum team to inspect itself and create a plan for improvements to be enacted during the next sprint. It focuses on the process, relationships, tools, and the definition of done to identify what went well, what problems were encountered, and how to improve. This continuous improvement mindset is crucial for a healthy and effective Scrum team, making the retrospective a key event for adaptation. Remember, the sprint retrospective is about improving how the team works, not what they build. Question 19. What is an increment? A. A major release of the product. B. A sum of all the product backlog items completed during a sprint and the value of the increments of all previous sprints. C. A draft of the product for stakeholder review. D. The sprint backlog at the end of the sprint. Answer: B. A sum of all the product backlog items completed during a sprint and the value of the increments of all previous sprints. An increment is a concrete step toward the product goal. Each increment adds to all prior increments and is thoroughly verified, ensuring that all increments work together. For an increment to be usable, it must meet the definition of done. The increment represents the sum of all the product backlog items completed during a sprint and the value of the increments of all previous sprints, building upon the product iteratively and incrementally. It's the tangible, potentially releasable result of the Scrum team's efforts each sprint. Question 20. Who is ultimately responsible for the sprint goal? A. The product owner. B. The Scrum Master. C. The developers. D. The entire Scrum team. Answer: D. The entire Scrum team. While the sprint goal is crafted during sprint planning, the entire Scrum team commits to achieving it. The sprint goal creates coherence and focus for the developers by defining why the sprint is valuable to stakeholders. The product owner ensures its alignment with the product goal, the developers craft the plan to meet it, and the Scrum Master coaches the team in its commitment. Therefore, accountability for achieving the sprint goal is shared by all members of the Scrum team, fostering a collective sense of purpose. Question 21. Which statement about self-managing developers is true? A. They are solely responsible for all decisions regarding the product and its strategy. B. They choose how and who does the work within the sprint. C. They only follow instructions given by the product owner. D. They report their individual progress to the Scrum Master daily. Answer: B. They choose how and who does the work within the sprint. Self-managing developers choose how and who does the work within the sprint, rather than being directed by others outside the team. This means they decide on the best technical approach, how to best tackle product backlog items, and how to allocate tasks among themselves to achieve the sprint goal. This autonomy fosters ownership, creativity, and efficient problem-solving within the team, aligning with Scrum's principle of empowering those closest to the work. The Scrum Master supports this self-management by removing impediments and coaching. Question 22. When should the definition of done be reviewed and adapted? A. Only at the beginning of the project. B. At the end of every sprint during the sprint retrospective. C. Only when new technologies are introduced. D. Whenever the product owner requests a change. Answer: B. At the end of every sprint during the sprint retrospective. The definition of done is a commitment that defines the quality required for the increment. It is inspected and adapted during the sprint retrospective, along with other aspects of the team's process. As the team matures, or as new insights, technologies, or organizational standards emerge, the definition of done may evolve to reflect a higher quality bar. Regularly reviewing and adapting it ensures continuous improvement in the product's quality and the team's working agreements. Question 23. The Scrum Master ensures that the Scrum events are positive, productive, and kept within the time box. This is an example of the Scrum Master acting as A. Project Manager. B. Technical Lead. C. Facilitator. D. Team Leader. Answer: C. Facilitator. When a Scrum Master ensures that Scrum events are positive, productive, and kept within their time boxes, they are primarily acting as a facilitator. They guide the team through the event, maintain focus, encourage participation, and help create an environment where decisions can be made effectively. This facilitation helps the Scrum team to be more effective in their meetings and allows them to maximize the value derived from each event. Being a facilitator is a core aspect of the Scrum Master's servant leader responsibilities. Question 24. What is the recommended size for a product backlog item? A. Small enough to fit into a sprint. B. Large enough to capture all details. C. It varies, there is no recommended size. D. Always measured in story points. Answer: A. Small enough to fit into a sprint. While there isn't a strict absolute size, product backlog items should be refined to be small enough that developers can select them with confidence and complete them within a single sprint. Smaller items allow for better planning, more accurate forecasting, and a higher probability of achieving the sprint goal. This refinement ensures that items at the top of the product backlog are ready for implementation. Thinking of items like bite-sized chunks helps the team process work more efficiently and deliver value incrementally. Question 25. Who has the final say on the order of the product backlog? A. The Scrum Master. B. The developers. C. The product owner. D. The stakeholders. Answer: C. The product owner. The product owner is solely accountable for managing the product backlog, and this includes ordering the product backlog items to best achieve goals and missions. While they may take input from developers, stakeholders, and the Scrum Master, the ultimate decision and accountability for the order rest with the product owner. This singular accountability ensures a clear vision for product value and avoids conflicting priorities. Remember, the product owner maximizes value, and ordering is a crucial tool in that endeavor. Question 26. What does the sprint goal provide to the developers? A. A detailed list of tasks to complete. B. A strict timeline for individual assignments. C. Flexibility in terms of the exact scope of product backlog items implemented. D. A commitment to completing every selected product backlog item. Answer: C. Flexibility in terms of the exact scope of product backlog items implemented. The sprint goal provides a guiding objective for the sprint, offering flexibility in terms of the exact scope of product backlog items implemented. While the developers commit to the sprint goal, they can collaborate with the product owner to adjust the scope of the sprint backlog if needed, as long as the sprint goal remains intact. This flexibility allows the team to adapt to new discoveries or challenges during the sprint without compromising the overarching objective. It empowers the developers to make informed decisions about how best to achieve the goal. Question 27. What happens to product backlog items that do not meet the definition of done by the end of the sprint? A. They are inspected at the sprint review and then discarded. B. They are carried over to the next sprint without further discussion. C. They are returned to the product backlog and reprioritized by the product owner. D. They automatically become part of the next sprint's scope. Answer: C. They are returned to the product backlog and reprioritized by the product owner. Any product backlog item that does not meet the definition of done at the end of the sprint cannot be considered part of the increment. These unfinished items are returned to the product backlog, where they are re-evaluated and reprioritized by the product owner for future sprints. This ensures that only fully done and shippable work contributes to the increment, maintaining quality and transparency. It reinforces the importance of the definition of done as a quality gate for all work. Question 28. How does Scrum promote self-managing teams? A. By having the Scrum Master assign tasks to team members. B. By providing strict, detailed plans for the entire project up front. C. By empowering the developers to manage their own work and organization. D. By having the product owner direct the technical implementation. Answer: C. By empowering the developers to manage their own work and organization. Scrum promotes self-managing teams by empowering the developers to decide internally how and who best does the work to create the increment. Rather than being directed by external managers or even the Scrum Master, the developers take collective ownership of their process and output. This autonomy fosters accountability, innovation, and efficient problem-solving, making the team more effective and responsive to changes. A truly self-managing team can determine the best way to achieve the sprint goal. Question 29. The product goal describes a future state of the product which can serve as a target for the Scrum team to plan against. Where is the product goal formally stated? A. In the sprint backlog. B. In the sprint goal. C. In the product backlog. D. In the definition of done. Answer: C. In the product backlog. The product goal is the long-term objective for the Scrum team, providing a clear target and a vision for the product. It resides in the product backlog, acting as the ultimate commitment for the product backlog. All product backlog items should align with the product goal, guiding the product owner in ordering and the developers in building the product incrementally. It provides a strategic direction, helping the team understand the larger purpose of their work. Question 30. Which of the following is not a Scrum artifact? A. Product backlog. B. Sprint backlog. C. Burn down chart. D. Increment. Answer, C. Burn-down chart. The three official Scrum artifacts are the Product Backlog, the Sprint Backlog, and the Increment. These artifacts represent work or value to provide transparency and opportunities for inspection and adaptation. A burn-down chart is a common complementary practice used to track progress, but it is not a formal artifact defined by Scrum itself. While useful, it's a tool, not a core component of the framework. Question 31. What is the role of management in a Scrum environment? A. To direct the Scrum team members on what to do. B. To remove organizational impediments and support the Scrum Master. C. To control the budget and project timeline directly. D. To conduct performance reviews for individual developers. Answer, B. To remove organizational impediments and support the Scrum Master. In a Scrum environment, management's role shifts from direct control to supporting the Scrum team and fostering an agile culture. This often involves removing organizational impediments that are beyond the Scrum team's control, providing resources, and supporting the Scrum Master in their role. They help create an environment where Scrum teams can thrive and be self-managing, enabling overall organizational agility. Their focus is on the system, not the specific tasks of the team. Question 32. The Scrum Master's role regarding the daily Scrum is to A. Lead the discussion and assign tasks. B. Ensure the developers understand the purpose of the daily Scrum and keep it within the time box. C. Gather status updates from each developer for the product owner. D. Solve all impediments identified during the daily Scrum immediately. Answer, B. Ensure the developers understand the purpose of the daily Scrum and keep it within the time box. The Scrum Master serves the Scrum team by ensuring that all Scrum events, including the daily Scrum, are positive, productive, and kept within their time box. They coach the developers on how to conduct the daily Scrum effectively, helping them understand its purpose of inspecting progress towards the sprint goal and adapting the sprint backlog. While the Scrum Master helps remove impediments, their immediate role during the daily Scrum is facilitative, not directive. The developers are responsible for the content and management of the daily Scrum. Question 33. How often should the product backlog be refined? A. Only at the beginning of each sprint. B. Continuously, as needed. C. Once per sprint, during sprint planning. D. Whenever the product owner has free time. Answer, B. Continuously, as needed. Product backlog refinement is the act of breaking down and further defining product backlog items into smaller, more precise items. It is an ongoing activity to add details, estimates, and order to items in the product backlog. This is not a formal event but an ongoing process that typically consumes no more than 10% of the developer's time. Continuous refinement ensures the product backlog remains transparent, well understood, and ready for future sprints, making planning more efficient and effective. Question 34. What is the duration of a sprint? A. A maximum of 1 month. B. Typically 2 weeks. C. Exactly 1 month. D. As long as it takes to complete all selected items. Answer, A. A maximum of 1 month. Sprints are fixed-length events of 1 month or less to create consistency. A new sprint starts immediately after the conclusion of the previous sprint. This fixed duration provides a predictable rhythm for the team and limits the amount of complexity and risk, as feedback loops are short. Shorter sprints generally mean more frequent learning cycles and faster adaptation. Question 35. What is the main characteristic of a product backlog item that is ready for a sprint? A. It has a detailed technical design document. B. It is fully understood by the product owner. C. It is transparent, understood, and sized appropriately. D. It has been approved by all stakeholders. Answer, C. it is transparent, understood, and sized appropriately. A product backlog item is considered ready when it is transparent, well understood by the developers, and small enough to be completed within a single sprint. This readiness is achieved through product backlog refinement activities, where items are broken down, estimated, and clarified. Having ready items ensures that the developers can confidently select them during sprint planning and have a clear path to delivering a done increment. Think of ready as clear, actionable, and manageable for the development team.